Captain James Stewart crouched behind a collapsed column in what was once the vibrant heart of New London. The alien ships hovered menacingly overhead, their sleek, metallic forms glinting in the dim light. The Varner had come with promises of peace, but their true intentions were clear now: conquest and subjugation. Stewart adjusted his grip on his sidearm, the familiar weight offering a small measure of comfort amidst the chaos. Beside him, Sarah Mitchell, a young engineer with a knack for old machinery, worked frantically to open a concealed hatch in the rubble. Their mission was desperate but necessary: retrieve and activate the city's forgotten artillery. The air crackled with the hum of alien drones patrolling the area. Stewart motioned for Sarah to hurry. "How much longer?" he whispered, eyes scanning the ruined landscape for any sign of the enemy. "Almost there," Sarah replied, her voice strained. "This lock is ancient." A moment later, the hatch creaked open, revealing a narrow tunnel leading to the underground military museum. Stewart gestured to Corporal Davies, a seasoned soldier whose grizzled appearance belied a sharp mind and steady hand. "Davies, take point." The trio descended into the darkness, the distant sounds of battle growing muffled. Stewart's mind raced with thoughts of their plan. The Varner's energy shields had rendered modern weaponry useless, but the kinetic force of old artillery might breach their defenses. As they navigated the tunnels, Davies spoke up. "Captain, you really think this old junk will make a difference?" Stewart's jaw tightened. "We don't have many options, Corporal. It's this or surrender, and I don't plan on giving up." They reached the museum's vault, and Sarah's eyes lit up as she spotted the dusty artillery pieces. "These beauties are from the last World War. If we can get them operational, we might have a shot." Stewart nodded, setting to work alongside her. Time was against them, but desperation fueled their efforts. As they cleaned and loaded the first artillery piece, a rumble echoed through the tunnels. The Varner had detected their presence. "Brace yourselves," Stewart ordered, positioning himself at the artillery's controls. "Sarah, fire when ready." With a thunderous roar, the artillery shell launched, hurtling through the air with raw, kinetic power. The explosion above was followed by the unmistakable sound of Varner shields shattering. Hope flickered in Stewart's chest as they reloaded for another shot. "Direct hit," Davies shouted, his voice triumphant. "Their shields are down." Stewart allowed himself a brief smile. "Let's keep it up. We need to hit their base next." They continued their barrage, each shot weakening the Varner's defenses further. The museum's structure groaned under the strain, dust and debris raining down, but the team's resolve remained unbroken. Just as they were gaining momentum, Sarah's console beeped urgently. "Captain, we've got incoming reinforcements." "A lot of them." Stewart's heart sank. They were running out of time. "Davies, cover our retreat." "Sarah, get the coordinates for their base. We need to move." Davies set up a defensive position at the tunnel's entrance, his rifle at the ready. "I'll buy you some time, sir. Make it count." Stewart and Sarah gathered their equipment, racing back through the tunnels. The ground shook with the force of the Varner's retaliation, but they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that this could be humanity's last stand. Emerging into the ruined city, they were greeted by the sight of alien reinforcements closing in. Stewart glanced at Sarah, determination in his eyes. "We need to hit that base. It's our only chance." Sarah nodded, setting the artillery sights on the distant Varner stronghold. "Coordinates locked, ready to fire on your command." As the Varner forces drew closer, Stewart gave the order. "Fire!" The shell soared through the air, a symbol of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. The resulting explosion rocked the alien base, sending shockwaves through the enemy ranks. Stewart and Sarah braced themselves for the counterattack, knowing that their actions had bought humanity a fighting chance. Captain James Stewart and Sarah Mitchell hurried back through the maze of tunnels, the echoes of distant explosions reverberating around them. Corporal Davies remained behind, buying them precious time against the advancing Varner forces. "Coordinates locked," Sarah confirmed, glancing at her handheld device. "We need to get this artillery set up fast." Stewart nodded, pushing aside his growing concern for Davies. Let's move. They emerged into the ruins of New London, the once great city now a desolate battleground. Alien drones scoured the skies, their searchlights sweeping across the debris-strewn streets. Stuart and Sarah kept to the shadows, avoiding detection as they made their way to the pre-selected vantage point. Here, Stuart said, pointing to a collapsed building that provided cover while offering a clear line of sight to the Varner base. They quickly assembled the artillery, the ancient mechanisms creaking but holding steady. Sarah adjusted the sight, her brow furrowed in concentration. This should give us the range we need. Ready when you are, Captain. Stuart took a deep breath, steadying himself. Fire! The first shell soared through the air, a stark contrast to the silent precision of modern weaponry. It crashed into the Varner base with a thunderous explosion, shattering their energy shields and sending debris flying. The alien forces, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. Direct hit, Sarah reported, a hint of triumph in her voice. Stuart allowed himself a brief smile. Reload and fire again. We need to keep the pressure on. They continued their barrage, each shell finding its mark and weakening the Varner defenses further. The alien retaliation grew more desperate, their once impenetrable shields now failing to protect them. The humans had found a way to fight back. Incoming, Sarah warned as a swarm of alien drones descended upon their position. Stuart grabbed his rifle, firing at the approaching drones. Keep firing, Sarah. I'll handle these. The drones swarmed around them, their lasers slicing through the air. Stuart's precise shots took down several, but the sheer number of enemies threatened to overwhelm them. Just as hope seemed to wane, a familiar voice crackled over their comms. Need some help? Davies' gruff tone was unmistakable. Stuart glanced up to see Davies emerging from the tunnels, a rocket launcher slung over his shoulder. He aimed and fired, the rocket tearing through the drone swarm and scattering them in all directions. Perfect timing, Davies, Stuart said, reloading his rifle. Let's finish this. With Davies' support, they repelled the drone assault and continued their artillery barrage. The Varner base, now exposed and vulnerable, was on the brink of collapse. Stuart's heart pounded with a mix of fear and exhilaration. They were making progress, but the battle was far from over. Captain, look! Sarah pointed to the horizon where a massive alien ship was approaching, its weapons primed and ready to obliterate them. Stuart's mind raced. We need to take out that ship. It's our only chance. Davies grinned, a fierce determination in his eyes. Just give the order, sir. Stuart adjusted the artillery's aim, targeting the approaching ship. Fire at will. The shell launched, streaking towards the alien ship. It hit its mark, causing a massive explosion that rocked the battlefield. The ship's defenses flickered, and for a moment, it seemed like they might have succeeded. But the ship remained, albeit damaged, and it began to retaliate with overwhelming force. Laser beams scorched the ground around them, and Stuart knew they had to act quickly. Sarah, Davies, fall back, Stuart ordered, his voice firm. We need to regroup and plan our next move. They retreated into the tunnels, the ground shaking from the ongoing battle. Stuart's mind was already working on their next steps. The Varner ship was a formidable opponent, but they had found a way to breach their defenses before, and they could do it again. As they reached the relative safety of their underground base, Stuart turned to his team. We may have hit them hard, but they're not done yet. We need to regroup, rearm, and get ready for another strike. Davies nodded. We'll make those aliens regret ever setting foot on our planet. Sarah checked her equipment, determination etched on her face. Captain, I've got an idea for how we can take down that ship once and for all. Stuart listened as Sarah outlined her plan, his hope rekindled. They had faced overwhelming odds and struck a significant blow. Now they had a strategy to end the threat for good. Captain James Stuart stood with Sarah and Davies in the underground command center, reviewing their plan. The Varner ship, although damaged, posed a significant threat. They had to take it down to turn the tide of the war. Sarah, you're sure this will work? Stuart asked, his voice steady but filled with the weight of their mission. Sarah nodded, her expression determined. We need to use the remaining artillery to hit their power source. It's risky, but it's our best shot. Davies checked his weapon, a grim smile on his face. Let's make those aliens regret ever stepping foot on Earth. They moved swiftly through the tunnels, emerging into the war-torn city. The air was thick with smoke, and the sounds of distant explosions filled their ears. Stewart led the way, his eyes scanning for any signs of the enemy. Reaching their vantage point, they set up the artillery. Sarah adjusted the sights, focusing on the alien ship's vulnerable spot. Coordinates locked. Ready on your command, Captain. Stewart took a deep breath, his mind clear and focused. Fire! The shell launched with a deafening roar, streaking towards the alien ship. It struck the target, causing a massive explosion that rocked the ground beneath them. The ship's defenses flickered, and for a moment, it seemed like they might have succeeded. Direct hit, Sarah exclaimed, her voice filled with triumph. But the ship remained, albeit damaged, and began to retaliate with overwhelming force. Laser beams scorched the ground around them, forcing Stewart and his team to take cover. We need to keep hitting it, Stewart shouted, reloading the artillery. Davies, provide cover fire. Davies fired at the approaching alien drones, his shots precise and deadly. Sarah continued to adjust the artillery, each shell finding its mark and weakening the alien ship further. As the battle raged on, Stewart noticed something strange. The Varner forces seemed to be focusing their attacks on a specific area. They're protecting something, he muttered, a thought forming in his mind. Sarah, can you scan that section? He asked, pointing to the heavily guarded area. Sarah nodded, quickly accessing her equipment. There's an energy signature there. It looks like their power core. Stewart's eyes lit up with determination. That's our target. We take that out and the ship is done. They repositioned the artillery, aiming directly at the power core. This is it, Stewart said, his voice filled with resolve. Fire! The shell launched, streaking towards the core. It hit with a massive explosion, sending shockwaves through the ship. The alien vessel began to crumble, its defenses failing. We did it! Sarah shouted, her face alight with victory. But their celebration was short-lived. The ground shook as the ship's final act of desperation sent a barrage of laser fire towards their position. Take cover! Stewart yelled, diving behind a collapsed building. The lasers scorched the ground around them, but the team managed to avoid the worst of the attack. The alien ship, now critically damaged, began to fall from the sky, crashing into the city with a thunderous roar. Stewart rose from his cover, surveying the wreckage. Is everyone all right? He called out, his heart pounding. All good here, Captain, Davies replied, dusting himself off. Sarah emerged from her hiding spot, a smile on her face. We did it, Captain. The ship is down. Stewart allowed himself a moment of relief, but he knew their work was far from over. Let's regroup and plan our next move. We need to take advantage of this victory. As they returned to the command center, Stewart couldn't shake the feeling that this was just one battle in a much larger war. The Varner were formidable, but humanity had shown they could fight back. In the command center, Stewart gathered his team. We've struck a significant blow, but the Varner won't give up easily. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. Sarah nodded, her expression serious. I've been working on a new strategy that could help us take down more of their forces. We just need to gather the right resources. Davies grinned, his eyes gleaming with determination. Let's get to work then. We've got a planet to save. Stewart felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced overwhelming odds and come out victorious, but the battle was far from over. With his team by his side, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Captain James Stewart stood at the entrance of the underground command center, surveying the cityscape. New London lay in ruins, but its spirit endured. The Varner ship's wreckage still smoldered in the distance, a testament to their recent victory. Yet Stewart knew the war was far from over. Captain, I've analyzed the ship's data, Sarah said, approaching him with a data pad. The Varner have a secondary command center nearby. If we can take it out, we might cripple their operations. Stewart nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. We'll need to move quickly and strike hard. Gather the team. In the dimly lit command center, the team assembled, their faces a mixture of determination and weariness. Davies, ever the stalwart soldier, stood ready with his weapon slung over his shoulder. Sarah, with her technical expertise, had already begun outlining their strategy. We'll split into 2 groups, Stewart explained. Davies, you and your squad will create a diversion. Sarah and I will infiltrate the command center and disable their systems. Davies grinned. Sounds like a plan. Let's give them hell. They moved out, navigating the labyrinth of tunnels that had become their home. Emerging into the city, the 2 groups parted ways. Stewart and Sarah made their way to the secondary command center, using the shadows to avoid detection. Reaching the perimeter, they found a weak spot in the alien defenses. This is it, Stewart whispered. Stay close and be ready. They slipped through the gap, moving swiftly and silently. The Varner guards, preoccupied with the diversion, paid little attention to the interior. Stewart and Sarah advanced, their goal within reach. Inside the command center, they encountered minimal resistance. Stewart's precise shots took down the few guards they met, while Sarah accessed the main control terminal. I've got it, she said, fingers flying over the controls. Just a few more seconds. Suddenly, an alarm blared. The Varner had realized the intrusion. We've got company, Stewart said, positioning himself to defend Sarah. The doors burst open, and alien soldiers poured in. Stewart fired with deadly accuracy, each shot finding its mark. Sarah worked feverishly, bypassing the security protocols. Almost there, she muttered. A Varner officer charged at them, a menacing figure with a plasma weapon. Stewart intercepted him, their struggle fierce and unyielding. In a desperate move, Stewart disarmed the officer, using the plasma weapon to neutralize the remaining threats. I'm in, Sarah shouted. Initiating shutdown sequence now. The command center systems went dark, and the building shuddered as the power grid collapsed. The Varner forces, suddenly leaderless and disorganized, faltered in their assault. We need to get out of here, Stewart said, pulling Sarah away from the terminal. This place is going down. They raced through the corridors, the structure crumbling around them. Explosions echoed as the Varner's defenses collapsed. Reaching the exit, they emerged into the open air just as the command center imploded, a final testament to their victory. Davies and his squad rejoined them, their mission successful. Good work, everyone, Stewart said, breathing heavily. We've dealt them a serious blow today. The team gathered in the remains of a once bustling square, the city eerily quiet. Stewart addressed them, his voice steady and resolute. This is a turning point. We've shown that we can fight back and win. But we need to stay vigilant and be ready for the next challenge. Sarah stepped forward, holding up a data pad. Before the shutdown, I managed to download some critical data. It looks like the Varner have a hidden base where they're planning something big. We need to stop them. Stewart nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. We'll prepare and strike when they're least expecting it. Let's get to work. As the team dispersed to regroup and plan their next move, Stewart stood for a moment, looking out over the city. They had achieved a significant victory, but he knew the road ahead would be long and arduous. Yet, with the strength and determination of his team, he believed they could overcome any obstacle.